Call me naive, but I thought moving to the tropical paradise of Costa Rica would be a dream. Sunshine, sandy beaches, and permanently cheerful locals. What's not to love, right? Well, turns out those smiling faces hide a darker reality. And don't get me started on the centipedes. Let's just say this intrepid traveler quickly realized not every relocation is an upgrade. Join me on a tour of popular expat destinations that aren't quite the paradise their tourism boards advertise. We'll explore the dirty underbellies of supposed havens like Brazil, Japan, and more. You might just decide home sweet home isn't so bad after all. Let's start with some common struggles expats face and discuss how the reality of life abroad doesn't match the dream. So you packed your bags, kissed your old life goodbye, and set off for adventure in a foreign land. How romantic. Too bad no one warned you about the crushing loneliness, the communication struggles, the culture shock that would leave you weeping into your croissant. Not exactly the stuff of fairy tales, is it? Take it from me. Life as an expat isn't all rosé and baguettes. After following my wanderlust to the City of Light, I found myself surrounded by rude locals who resented my broken French sky-high living costs that had me subsisting on bread and cheese, and so much bureaucracy, I'm still not sure I actually live here. Where was my promised life of joie de vivre? All joking aside, moving abroad often means trading familiar comforts for unfamiliar challenges. Sure, there are rewards, new experiences, personal growth, exposure to different ways of living. But any expat will tell you that you've got to go in with realistic expectations about what you're getting into, or you'll end up on the first plane back home, wondering why you ever left. My advice, do your research, learn the language, and be prepared for difficulties. Talk to other expats. Make local friends. Give yourself time to adjust. The challenges may never completely disappear, but approach your new life with patience, humor, and an open mind, and you'll find that the rewards can make all the hassles worthwhile. Now, who wants a croissant? I'm buying. Now let's get into the top countries expats often regret moving to long term. Moving abroad always seems so glamorous and exciting, until it isn't. As someone who packed up their life to start over in a foreign land, I can tell you firsthand that reality doesn't always match expectations. Take Canada, for example. Sure, the people are lovely and the scenery stunning, but no one warns you about the bone-chilling cold or the fact that everything costs an arm and a leg. By the time my savings account resembled an icicle, I realized the Great White North might not have been my brightest idea. Then there's the United Kingdom, a country I admire for its history and humor. Unfortunately, its weather and work culture leave much to be desired. Endless gray skies and 12-hour workdays make it difficult to achieve any sort of balance. At least they have socialized medicine, because you'll probably need therapy after a few months of management hell. Brazil boasts natural beauty and an infectious zest for life. Sadly, violence and crime run rampant, especially in cities. While the caipirinhas are delicious and the beaches pristine, no amount of sun and fun can make up for the constant fear of being robbed, assaulted, or worse. I suppose that's why most expats only last a season or two. Next on my list is France. Living in France, the land of wine, cheese, and obnoxious locales. After 6 months icy, my rose-colored glasses have firmly come off. The French really don't like foreigners, especially Americans, and will let you know in a barrage of rapid-fire French. Smiling? Forget about it. The only time I've seen a French person grin is when I'm paying for a baguette. The food is great, oui, but everything else is annoyingly inefficient. Want to see a doctor? Hope you have nowhere to be for the next 8 hours, and good luck deciphering the paperwork without a translator. My charming Paris apartment looks nothing like the photos, unless you count the mice, cockroaches, and crumbling plaster as charming decor. Don't even get me started on the cost of living. My tiny cafe au lait cost more than a steak back home. At this point, I'm counting down the days until I can bid this overrated country au revoir. Vive la France? Non. Merci. I'll be catching the next flight out of Charles de Gaulle. S'il vous plaît. Next on my list is Japan. If you're a workaholic who loves chain smoking through endless meetings, Japan might be your paradise. For the rest of us, not so much. Everything here is designed to suck the life out of you. The companies act like they own you, and maybe they do since they provide housing and benefits. Forget work-life balance. The only balance here is how long you can stay upright after 18-hour workdays. At least the food is decent if you don't mind everything individually wrapped. Why have a whole ear of corn when you can have 6 separate kernels? The culture shock might kill you before the workload does, but hey, the cherry blossoms are pretty. For the 15 minutes a year you'll see them before rushing off to your next meeting. Overall, Japan gets 2 thumbs down, unless you're some kind of productivity-obsessed masochist. The rest of us will pass on the karoshi and hold out for a country where living to work isn't the national motto. Lastly, we have China. Coming from the land of the free, I was not prepared for the culture shock China had in store for me. The locals ignore expats like we're stray dogs wandering the streets. Ask a question and be prepared for a 30-second torrent of Mandarin insults. The only smiles you'll get are from restaurant staff trained to extract your yuan. Work brought me to Shanghai, but the Paris of the East is a sham. The gleaming skyscrapers and neon hide a crumbling infrastructure and standards of living that would make a New York City rat weep. Still, the chaos and colors were exciting at first. I dove into the expat scene, but soon grew weary of the pretense. Underneath the glitz, everyone was desperately lonely or running from something. Many told me, "You'll get used to it." But after 18 months battling pollution, pushing through crowds and relying on Google Translate, I realized China and I were not meant to be. The culture values conformity over individuality, and my irreverent nature was not appreciated. Everything felt off, from the air I breathed to the restrictions on information. While an intriguing place to visit, China proved too alien a world for this Yankee to call home. My wanderlust led me to Asia, but my heart called me back stateside. Some places you can't adapt to, no matter how hard you try. In the end, the grass often seems greener on the other side. But once you hop the fence, you may find yourself longing for the familiar comforts of home. My advice? Do your research. Go in with realistic expectations and don't burn any bridges. You just might need them for a quick escape. Now I will share some tips to improve your experience to make the move abroad work for you. First, drop the romanticized notions. Look, I get it. The idea of moving to another country seems exciting and adventurous, but the reality is often far from those fantasy images of sipping wine at a Parisian cafe, riding camels at sunset in Morocco. Once the honeymoon period wears off, you're faced with the mundane realities of life in a foreign place, and it isn't always pretty. My advice? Drop any overly romanticized expectations before you go. Do your research on what daily life is really like there. The less surprises, the better. My next tip is to learn the language. If you want to have an easier time adapting, learn the local language. I don't care if everyone speaks English. Make an effort to pick up some basics. People will appreciate your attempt, and it will help you navigate day-to-day life without relying on others. Plus, you'll have an easier time making local friends if you can actually talk to them. Finally, find your tribe. Making friends in a new country is challenging but crucial. Seek out expats with similar interests or locals open to befriending newcomers. Check sites like Meetup, Internations, or Couchsurfing for events and groups. Having a support network will make the move abroad feel less lonely and isolating. And when the going gets tough, your tribe can commiserate with you over drinks, while also reminding you why you made the move in the first place. So maybe the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Or maybe it is, but there are snakes hiding in it. The moral of the story is, moving to another country is a huge decision that requires careful thought and research. Don't just romanticize some exotic locale you saw in a movie once. Talk to people who have actually lived there and experienced daily life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Each place has its own unique charms and challenges. Make sure you understand them before packing your bags. And leave room for surprises, because no matter how much you prepare, some things you'll just have to learn the hard way. But that's all part of the adventure, right? At least you'll have some good stories to tell at parties after you move back home.